Headway 5th edition Upper-Intermediate student book by Liz and John Sawes and Paul Hancock. Published and copyright Oxford University Press 2019. CD1 1.1 An email home. We're finally on Galapagos.
Hi Mum. Hi Dad. Thanks for yours. Always love news from home. So, at last, the Galapagos Islands. A dream come true. We've been travelling for 2 months now. Chile, Argentina, Bolivia, Peru. It's been amazing. Can't believe I've seen Machu Picchu and camped in the mountains of Torres del Paine. Ma, you'd go mad for the views. But the Galapagos are a different planet. We flew to Santa Cruz last Friday. It's one of the biggest islands. And get this. This morning, we snorkeled with sea turtles. Probably the best experience of my life. Kiri and I actually swam alongside them. Also saw sea lions and their pups relaxing on the rocks. So cute. Oh, and some sharks. Don't freak, Mum. They were just babies. Tomorrow we're taking the ferry to San Cristobal. Time to start work. Kiri's worried because she always gets seasick and it'll be a hot, cramped ride. Our work at the volunteer centre is just for 1 week. It's going to be mainly farm work. After that, it's on to Isabella Island. It's wildlife heaven. Penguins, flamingos, pelicans, and, coolest of all, the mega famous giant tortoises. Can't wait to see them. Missing you loads, but I'll be sad to leave this paradise. Definitely going to come back one day. Love and hugs, Nancy. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Kiri sends love too.
1.2 Nancy and Kiri's amazing trip. 1.
How long have they been travelling round South America?
For 2 months.
2.
Which countries have they visited so far?
They've already been to Chile, Argentina, Bolivia and Peru.
3.
When did they arrive in Santa Cruz?
Last Friday.
4.
What did they do that morning?
They snorkeled with sea turtles and swam alongside them.
5.
What were the sea lions doing?
They were relaxing on the rocks.
6.
Why are they going to San Cristobal tomorrow?
Because they're going to work there at a volunteer centre.
7.
Why is Kiri not looking forward to the journey?
Because they're going by ferry and she gets seasick.
8.
What do they particularly want to see on Isabella Island?
The giant tortoises.
1.3 Tyler in London. 1.
Where is Tyler spending the year?
In London.
2.
Is this his first trip abroad?
No, it isn't. He's been abroad once before. Last year he went to Mexico.
3.
Where does Dave live?
In North London.
4.
How long is Tyler going to stay with Dave?
A few days.
5.
Why did the guy say cheers to Tyler?
Because he had let him pass.
6.
What does he think of his host family?
He thinks they're very nice.
7.
What are they going to do on Sunday?
They're going to Stratford-on-Avon, Shakespeare's birthplace.
1.4 Identifying tenses. 1.
I've heard that Hannah's been seeing a lot of Patrick recently.
You're kidding. I thought he was going out with Sally.
You know Patrick. I wouldn't trust him, would you? Poor Sally.
2.
Are you being served, sir?
Just looking, thank you.
Well, if you need any help, just call.
3.
I'll be seeing Bill this afternoon. I'll tell him the good news then.
Actually, I'd rather you didn't say anything to him yet. It's not absolutely certain he'll get the job.
4.
Do you have any idea which address it was sent to?
Well, she said she'd sent it to my address, but it never arrived.
But you've only just moved. Maybe she doesn't have your new address.
5.
I hadn't seen her since she was a little girl, and she changed beyond all recognition.
Well, 20 years is a long time. It's about 20 years since the family emigrated to Australia, isn't it?
Yeah, and she was only 5 then.
6.
Nobody will believe him. He's the kind of guy who isn't believed by anyone.
Yeah, he always talks big.
I know. I bet he isn't really going to play for Manchester United.
7.
I haven't been told yet if I've got it. I'll be told in writing sometime next week.
Well, good luck. I think you're perfect for the job.
You're my mum. Of course you think that.
8.
Apparently, he was overtaking on a bend at 70 miles per hour when they caught him.
Yeah, I heard that. He was caught by a speed camera.
He'll probably lose his licence.
1.5. Talking about you. 1.
At weekends, I often don't bother getting up till lunchtime.
Absolutely. Why bother if you don't have to?
2.
My parents have never had a crossword all their married lives. Really? Mine are at it all the time.
3.
I don't think I'll ever master this new phone.
Come on, you'll get used to it. I use mine to pay for everything now.
4.
I was saying to a friend just the other day that I hadn't seen you for ages.
I know. How long has it been?
5.
I hate Mondays because nothing ever goes right on a Monday.
Only Mondays, eh? Aren't you the lucky one?
6.
I just arrived home last night when I realised I left my laptop on the bus.
Well, you won't see that again.
7.
I was just getting ready to go out when my grandma rang for a chat.
I know, and you feel really bad if you say it's a bad time.
8.
I've been told that our teacher wears purple pyjamas in bed.
Who on earth told you that?
9.
In my very first English lesson, I was taught to introduce myself and say hello.
Well, in my first French lesson, I was taught to say the cat runs after the mouse and other such stuff. Useful, huh?
10.
The reason I'm learning English is because it's spoken all over the world.
True, but isn't Chinese spoken by more people?
1.6. Missing words out. 1.
Heard about Jane and John?
Huh?
Thought not.
What's happened? I always thought they got on really well.
Apparently not. John's been seeing his ex-girlfriend.
2.
Leaving already? What's wrong?
I just have a headache, that's all.
3.
Failed again? How many times is that?
OK, there's no need to rub it in. They say the best drivers fail 3 times.
4.
Sorry I'm late. Been waiting long?
No, I've just arrived myself. Got caught in traffic.
5.
Doing anything interesting this weekend?
If you call housework interesting, I've just got to tidy my flat this weekend.
6.
Like the car. When did you get it?
We've had it a while, actually. Second hand, you know.
7.
Bye, Joe. See you later.
Yeah, I'll be round about 8.
8.
Just coming. Hang on.
Get a move on or we'll go without you.
9.
Want a lift? Hop in.
Great. Can you drop me in the centre?
10.
Seen Jim lately?
No, I haven't. I wonder what he's up to at the moment.
1.7. A short conversation.
Morning.
Morning. Lovely day, isn't it? On your way to the park?
Unfortunately not. Just off to work.
Working on a Saturday? Shame.
I know. Can't be helped.
.8. The Lost Boy.
It was late at night. We got off the train and I was so tired that I just sat down at the train station and I ended up falling asleep. It was a very scary place to be. I do not think any mother or father would like to have their 5-year-old wandering alone in the slums and train stations of Calcutta. I was scared. I didn't know where I was. I accepted that I was lost and that I could not find my way back home, so I thought it was great that I was going to Australia. I multiplied the time I was on the train, about 14 hours, with the speed of Indian trains, and I came up with a rough distance, about 1,200 kilometres. When I found it, I zoomed down and bang! The waterfall where I used to play. The last time I saw her, she was 34 years old and a pretty lady. I had forgotten that age would get the better of her. But then I recognised her and I said, "Yes, you are my mother." She grabbed my hand and took me into her house. She could not say anything to me. She had a bit of trouble grasping that her son, after 25 years, had returned. She had long feared I was dead. A month after I had disappeared, my brother was found in 2 pieces on a railway track. We were extremely close. When I left my mother to return to Tasmania, I was heartbroken, knowing that my older brother had passed away.
.9. Things I miss from home. Brenda.
There's only one thing I really miss about where I come from, and that's the sea. I'm originally from Yorkshire, and although I came to live here in Germany, 30 years ago, I still miss the northeast coast of England. There's just something about the sea. Where I live now, there's a river, and there are some nice walks along the banks. It's lovely, but it's not the same. The thing about the sea is that it changes all the time. Not just every day, but every time of day. In my hometown, when the tide comes in, the water comes right up to the road, and then, when it goes out, there's just miles and miles of sand. It can take an age to walk to the sea. It's a source of amazement to me every time I see it.
Shona.
The thing I miss about Scotland is probably the weather, believe it or not. Up there, the air is quite crisp and clear, and the temperature is cooler. I find here in Madrid, it can be very hot and very humid in summer, and a little bit sticky as well. And then it can be really very cold in winter. I was surprised at how cold. Back home, they think it's always lovely and warm in Spain.
Martin.
All right, well, I've been living in France for the last 25 years, and I suppose the things I miss most about Britain is, well, first of all, the obvious things, like every Brit living abroad. I miss some typical English foods. For me, that means curry, wine gums, digestive biscuits, brown sauce, porridge, and, of course, good old warm English beer. What else do I miss? Socially, a lot. I miss meeting friends in pubs. I miss the chats, the banter, just the way that people talk to each other. I miss that sparky British humour on a day-to-day basis. On perhaps a more serious note, I miss having a vote. In Britain, you lose your vote once you've been out of the country for more than 15 years. And I didn't even get a vote in the referendum. And because I haven't taken French nationality, I don't have a national vote here. So I don't get to vote anywhere these days. I guess that's one of the things I miss most.
Oliver.
So, things that I miss about the UK. The first would be bread. The bread here in the States seems to stay too fresh for a long time, and it doesn't actually make particularly good toast. And being British, toast is an important thing. And then, of course, there's work. I found working in the US surprisingly different from the UK. In the US, it's very important to be very upbeat and positive about what you can do, which, is true to a certain extent in the UK. But I think in the UK, it's kind of, okay, be good at what you do, but just get on with it. Over here, you're kind of expected to be a salesman, like you should be selling yourself and your abilities. I guess in a way, the Brits are just a bit more modest at work. And I kind of like that modesty. I'm not particularly good at selling myself. I just like to get on with my job. And I don't feel the need to tell everyone how good I am. But that's kind of the way of things over here.
Artem and Dasha.
One thing I miss is the food. All the seasonal products and the enjoyment of going to the farmer's market to buy goat's cheese from a lady that your grandma has known since you were little.
That's right. Apricots, melons, tomatoes just don't taste right in this country.
Yeah, and it seems that the most tasteless fruit here is a watermelon. I keep buying them, but every single one is a disappointment. I'll always miss the watermelons we used to get from the south of Ukraine.
That's true. But it's not the food I miss most. It's the language. My language. There is nothing quite like walking along the street and feeling like you are part of something bigger than yourself. Hearing your own language. I always feel a bit insecure when it's not my language. I think I'm missing something. It's hard to explain.
I know what you mean. Another thing I find hard is being away from home on our national holidays. We make much more of things like that in Ukraine. You just don't get the same feeling here of people coming together to celebrate in the streets.
Yes, it's not the same.
Carter.
I live with my dad on the East Coast, but I visit my mom in Florida lots of times a year. And the one thing I miss is my drums. I'm in a rock band, but I can't travel with my kit, so I have to leave it at home. It's like torture. I can't wait to get home to Dad's, sit at my drums, and get playing again. My mom says I miss them more than I miss her.
1.10. Compound nouns with house and home. 1.
Do you think you could possibly water my houseplants for me? I'm away on business for 2 weeks.
No problem. I'd be glad to. I'll keep an eye on your whole flat if you like.
Oh, that would be great.
Don't worry. I know how house-proud you are. I'll make sure everything stays clean and tidy.
I'll do the same for you any time, you know.
Thanks.
2.
Julie, have you heard? Anna's just been made managing director of the UK branch of her firm, so she's coming back from the States.
Oh, that's great news. Let's give her a spectacular homecoming party when she gets back from New York. She's certainly the career girl of the family.
Doing really well, isn't she?
I know, and I'm happy for her. Me, I'm just a housewife. 4 kids, homemade cakes and homegrown vegetables.
And how are my wonderful grandchildren?
3.
We're having a housewarming party on the 12th. Can you come?
Yeah, you bet. Oh, we'd love to. But I didn't know you'd moved.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. It's much bigger than the old one. Huge kitchen and 3 big bedrooms.
Sounds great.
Yeah, mind you, there's much more housework to do.
That's a drag.
4.
Mum, I want to come home. I don't like it here.
Oh, Max, come on now. You were so looking forward to going to Scout camp.
But... Mum, I hate it here. Why won't you and Dad come and get me?
Max, we can't. I never thought you'd be so homesick. And you'll be home in 2 days.
2 more days? Oh, no!
5.
Hey, you going to Carly's on Saturday?
I dunno.
It's a free house. It'll be great.
Cool. Where are her parents then?
Carly says they're visiting her grandma. She's sick and housebound, so they have to go and help.
OK, count me in. I'll be there.
1.11. Casual conversations. 1.
Great to see you. Come on in.
I was just passing and I thought I'd drop in.
2.
Excuse me, don't I know you from somewhere?
No, I don't think so.
3.
What do you mean you're not coming?
Well, I just don't feel up to going out tonight.
4.
I think I'll have the chocolate mousse. What about you?
Let me see. No. Actually, I don't think I'll bother with dessert.
5.
My flatmate can't make your party.
Really? Oh, that's a shame. I was hoping to meet her.
6.
How come you're not having a holiday this year?
We just can't afford it.
7.
You really should take it easy. You look stressed out.
That's as maybe, but we have a lot on at work at the moment.
8.
I've got you the last 2 tickets for the show.
Great stuff. I knew you'd swing it for us.
1.12. Excuse me, is this yours?
Excuse me, is this yours?
Oh, let me see. Yes, it is. Thank you. I must have dropped it.
Are you going far?
Yeah, all the way to London. What about you?
I'm getting off at Bristol.
Oh, do you live there?
Actually, no. I work in Bristol, but I live in Bath.
Lucky you. I think Bath's a beautiful city.
Yeah, you and thousands of others.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, the tourists. There are so many all year round.
Ah, yes, that's a drag. You don't like tourists, then?
Well, I shouldn't really complain.
How come? You can complain if you want.
I can't. Not really. You see, I'm a travel agent, so I make a living from tourists.
1.13. I was just passing. 1.
Tony! Hi! Hi! Great to see you.
Well, I was just passing and I thought I'd drop in and say hello.
Oh, come on in. Have a drink.
You sure you're not too busy?
Never too busy to talk to you.
Thanks, Jo. It'd be really nice to have a chat.
Great. Oh, let me take your coat.
2.
Excuse me? Don't I know you from somewhere?
No, I don't think so.
Weren't you at Gavin's party last week?
Not me. I don't know anyone called Gavin.
Well, someone who looked just like you was there.
Well, that's as may be, but it certainly wasn't me.
I am sorry.
2.1. 2 women sailors. Jean Barret, French circumnavigator, 1740 to 1807.
Jeanne Barret was the first woman to circumnavigate the globe, but she had to do it as a man. She was born in France in 1740 to a peasant family. She loved plants and became a self-taught expert on them, working as a herbalist. In 1767, the French government sent 2 navy ships to look for new lands and needed an assistant to the chief botanist Philibert Commerson. Commerson wanted to take Barret, but women weren't allowed in the navy. So, Barret dressed as a man, called herself Jean instead of Jeanne, and was given the job. After crossing the Atlantic, she sailed around South America and discovered many new plants, including bougainvillea. It was named after the captain of the ship, Louis de Bougainville. She did hard physical work, just like the rest of the crew, but some of the men were suspicious because Jean never washed or used the toilets with them. On Tahiti, a native recognized that she was a woman and told the other sailors. She left the ship at the next stop, Mauritius, because she no longer felt safe on a ship full of men. She married a French sailor on Mauritius and returned to France 6 years later in 1774, completing her 7-year voyage around the world. She died in 1807, aged 67.
Rika Meretniemi, Finnish circumnavigator, born 1977.
Rika Meretniemi is an IT professional, but since 2016 she's been sailing around the world with her husband, Tuomo, the captain, and their 3 children, the crew, Ara, 7, Kertu, 5, and Marta, 3. They aim to visit 75 countries in 75 months. They set out from Turkey 2 years ago and sailed around Europe, and they've already crossed the Atlantic to Barbados. They've just passed through the Panama Canal and have recently been sailing down the coast of Ecuador. They haven't just been having exciting adventures. As well as being in charge of navigation and food, Rika has also been teaching the children. She and Tuomo want to show how digital distance learning can bring education to children in remote parts of the world. She's been downloading educational programs and games, and she's also been teaching the kids about marine conservation projects and has shown them the problem of plastic pollution. Of course, it's an education for Rika too. They've already visited over 20 countries, and she's met a lot of native people, such as the Kuna Indians on the San Blas Islands of Panama. She's seen killer whales and dolphins, hundreds of dolphins, and also turtles, iguanas, stingrays, and lots of wonderful birds.
2.2. Rika and family. 1.
She's been watching out for hurricane warnings.
2.
They've sailed through the Panama Canal.
3.
The kids have used 3,000 sheets of drawing paper.
4.
She's baked 10 birthday cakes on board.
5.
They've been using sail power most of the time.
6.
They've been stung by jellyfish 4 times.
2.3. Questions and answers. Jean Barret. 1,
When and where was she born?
In 1740 in France.
2,
How did she get a job in the Navy?
By dressing as a man.
3,
Which plant did she discover?
Bougainvillea.
4,
Why did she leave the ship?
Because she felt unsafe.
5,
Who did she marry?
A French sailor.
Rika Meretniemi. 6,
Which canal has she just sailed through?
The Panama Canal.
7,
Where has she been sailing recently?
Down the Ecuadorian coast.
8,
What has she been taking care of?
The kids' education.
9,
What has she been teaching them about?
Marine conservation projects.
10,
Has she seen a lot of wildlife?
Yes, including killer whales and dolphins.
2.4. Doing the bucket list. 1, Helen.
They've always fascinated me. So a couple of years ago, I booked a trip to the north of Norway and stayed in a tree house. Well, a kind of tree hotel, really, and went sledding with husky dogs. That was actually 3 bucket list items in one trip for me. And I did worry beforehand about whether I'd actually get to see them. I mean, it's difficult not to when you go all that way, pay all that money, and, well, it's very possible they won't show up at all while you're there. So when we got there, it was so cold. I know that sounds silly, going up to the Arctic Circle and complaining about it being cold. But, I've never experienced cold like that before. It was -25. But anyway, it was worth it because, the first 2 nights were disappointing. Nothing. But then I felt so lucky. I saw them the next 2 nights, and they really are so beautiful. An amazing shimmering curtain that goes from a greeny to a kind of purpley red colour. And an interesting thing is that not everyone hears it, but they make a sound as well, a sort of buzzing noise. It's the most incredible experience I've ever had. Life-changing, really. It filled me with awe and wonder about the universe.
2, Keith.
I've been thinking of doing it for years now, because I know they're short of people, and, well, I'm glad I've finally done it. And it was an interesting experience. I was anxious on the way there because, well, you hear stories of people passing out, which would be so embarrassing, and, you see, I am a bit squeamish. So I thought of turning back at one point, but in I went and, well, it was fine. They took a tiny drop first for testing. I wanted to make the classic joke and say, "Is that it? Can I go now?" And then they put one of those things on your arm, like when you have your blood pressure checked and look for a vein. I looked away at that point. I mean, why would anyone want to see the needle going in? It's fine when it does. It's just a short, sharp pain, and then they leave you while the machine takes it out. I didn't want to watch the bag filling up either because, 3/4 of a pint does look like a lot of blood to lose. So I closed my eyes and waited for the beeping sound when the machine's finished. It was about 8 minutes, but it seemed much longer. And then, of course, I got tea and biscuits. And, I think I'll do it again because, it has made me feel better about myself.
3, Judy.
I've always fancied the idea, so when our hotel in Spain said they could organise it, and it was pretty cheap, I went for it. It was cancelled first time because of the wind, which was a drag, but the weather was fine 2 days later. I was really nervous before takeoff. That's the worst bit, really, because, it's the last chance to say, "I've changed my mind, can I get off?" And Well, part of me really wanted to do that. I was like, why am I choosing to fall to the ground at 180 kilometres an hour? Still, once we were off, it was easier, although the 7-minute climb seemed to last forever. And getting to where you jump out was freaky, because I'm used to walking down the aisle on planes, but it's a shock to see this, massive hole where the door usually is. But we jumped straight out, and, well, you get 60 seconds of free fall, and that is totally amazing. It's like a massive rush of air, and the ground is spinning, and I literally forgot to breathe. And then your shoulders suddenly get pulled back as the chute opens, and then it's suddenly really quiet, and you're floating through the sky. It's an incredible feeling, as if you've escaped your life completely. So, would I do it again? Hell yeah, I definitely will. It's made everyday life seem a bit dull.
2.5. Make or do. 1,
When you go for a job interview, it's important to make a good impression.
2,
I think we're all tired, so can I make a suggestion? How about a break?
3,
A lot of research has been done into the causes of cancer.
4,
Italy's an important market for us. We do a lot of business there.
5,
I know you don't like my mother, but you could at least make an effort to be nice to her.
6,
We need to have this room painted by lunchtime, so we should make a start now.
7,
I don't mind if we go by train or bus. It makes no difference to me.
8.
Could you do me a favour and lend me £10?
2.6. Expressions with make and do. 1,
Restaurant reviews can do a lot of damage. They can make or break the business, particularly if it's in one of the big newspapers.
2,
We'll never make the airport in time. We're doing about 10 miles an hour in this traffic. I think there must be a big accident up ahead.
3,
What do you do for a living?
I'm in PR. I do interviews and make speeches, especially when the company's had some bad publicity.
4,
We'll have to do even more overtime.
Well, that does it. I'm going to resign. I'm sure I can find a job with better working hours.
5,
Can we make the cake with this plain flour?
Yeah, that'll do fine. We just need to add some baking powder.
6,
I hear you've done a Spanish course.
Yes! I can just about make myself understood now. We'll see when I'm in Madrid next week.
7,
So the boss said you'd done a great job.
Yes, it really made my day. And maybe that promotion I want is looking more likely.
2.7. Phrasal verbs with make. 1,
Thieves broke into the gallery and made off with 3 priceless paintings.
2,
Jake's parents are always buying him toys. They're trying to make up for not spending enough time with him.
3,
What do you make of Carol's new boyfriend? I quite like him.
4,
I don't believe his story. I think he made the whole thing up.
2.8. Phrasal verbs with do. 1,
I'm thirsty. I could do with a cup of tea.
2,
We've bought an old farmhouse. We're going to do it up over the next few years.
3,
I think we should do away with the royal family. They're useless and expensive.
4,
I could never do without my personal assistant. She organises everything for me.
2.9. 1.
I'll never forget my trip to Giza and getting my first sight of the pyramids. They stand just on the edge of the desert, taking you back to the time of the pharaohs, but they're surprisingly near to modern buildings too. I kind of expected them to be right in the middle of nowhere.
2.
It's a brilliant city. We did a city tour on the first day to get a feel for the place, starting at the Reichstag. There's a viewing terrace right at the very top of the building where you get incredible views of the surrounding area. We stayed in what was the east side of the city, and even though it's been unified since 1989, there's still a different feel to east and west.
3.
We were staying on the outskirts of the city, so we only had a day for sightseeing. We began at the Capitol building and walked the 2 miles to the Lincoln Memorial at the other end of the mall. It's kind of a national park with gardens and lots of important museums, like the National Museum of American History.
4.
I wouldn't have missed it for the world. It really is one of India's must-see destinations. It's a magnificent white building right on the banks of the river, so you get wonderful reflections in the clear water. We also spent some time in Jaipur. Oh, I loved the colourful streets in the very heart of the old city.
3.1. The Bee Professor. 1.
Why did Dr. Al-Sus leave his country?
Because war broke out.
2.
What had he been doing at Damascus University?
He'd been researching bees.
3.
What happened to his beehives?
They were all destroyed.
4.
Why did he go to England?
Because his daughter, Roseanne, had already moved there.
5.
Where was Roseanne living when he arrived?
In Huddersfield in the northwest.
6.
Why couldn't he find a job as a beekeeper?
Because he was overqualified.
7.
How was he helped to start a business?
A lady from Manchester gave him a beehive.
8.
When and why did he launch the Buzz Project?
He launched it last year to train refugees and the unemployed in beekeeping.
3.2. Bees, Cheese and Refugees. 1.
Dr. Al-Sus left his home after war broke out.
2.
His daughter had moved to England a few years before him.
3.
When he arrived to join her, she was just starting her cheese company.
4.
Posting on Facebook didn't help him find any work.
5.
He was helped by a kind lady who gave him a beehive.
6.
He launched the Buzz Project because he wanted to help people like himself.
7.
He was interviewed by the BBC because of the project.
8.
Roseanne won the World Cheese Award in 2017.
3.3. Heartwarming Stories. Airport Security Officer's Act of Kindness.
Canadian artist Maudie Gowett had forgotten the airport rules about taking liquids onto the planes. So when she got to airport security, she was forced to give up all her painting supplies. However, when she returned a week later, a security officer was waiting for her in the baggage area with her paints. Not only had he kept them safe for her, he'd also looked up her return date so he could meet her. Maudie was amazed.
£5 notes hidden in books.
Chris Topping from Liverpool, England, had been browsing through some children's books in his local Waterstones bookshop when, in the pages of one, he came across a £5 note and an anonymous message. "Hi, if you find this money, then know the universe is smiling at you. Have a great day." Chris said the note had made him smile, so he used the money to buy sandwiches and drinks for some homeless people he'd seen on the street. He hoped that would please the anonymous donor.
No parking ticket for sick baby's mum.
A new mum in Canberra, Australia, had been staying in hospital with her sick baby boy. She returned to her car after being discharged and discovered that she had been given a parking ticket. But when she opened the envelope on her windscreen, she discovered a note from a kind lady called Laura. Laura had seen the ticket and written,
"I'm sure whatever you were going through in hospital was tough enough, so I've paid it for you. Hope things get better."
Bus lifted by 100 Londoners.
A crowd of Londoners worked together to lift up a double-decker bus when a cyclist had become trapped beneath it. Amazing pictures on YouTube showed about 100 commuters in East London lifting the huge number 212 bus when Anthony Shields had been hit and knocked off his bike. Anthony spent a month in hospital but has now recovered completely. He said he was moved to tears when he watched the video of his rescue.
3.4. Giving and reacting to news.
Did you hear about those amazing London commuters?
No. What did they do?
Well, apparently they lifted a double-decker bus.
They did what? You're kidding.
No, they really did.
That's amazing. But why? Was it a competition?
No, not at all. What happened was a cyclist had been knocked off his bike and he'd fallen under the bus.
Oh no. Was he injured? Did he die?
He was badly injured, but he survived. He's very grateful.
I bet he is. What number bus was it?
Why is that important? If you must know, it was the 212.
Ah, well, it's nice to know there are a lot of kind people in the world. How many were there?
It says here about 100.
Good for them.
3.5. The Clinging Woman. Part 1.
It's 5 to midnight. And tonight, we begin our new bedtime story. It's by that famous crime writer and author of many psychological thrillers, Ruth Rendell. One of her best-known short stories, The Clinging Woman.
The Clinging Woman. Part 1. The girl was hanging by her hands from the railings of a balcony. The balcony was on the 12th floor of the high-rise block next to his. His flat was on the 6th floor, and he had to look up to see her. It was 6:30 in the morning. He had been awakened by the sound of an aircraft flying dangerously low overhead, and had got out of bed to look. His sleepy gaze, descending from the blue sky, which was empty of clouds, empty of anything but the bright vanishing arrow of the aircraft, alighted, at first with disbelief, on the hanging figure.
3.6. The Clinging Woman. Part 2.
He really thought he must be dreaming, for this sunrise time was the hour for dreams. Then, when he knew he wasn't, he decided it must be a stunt. This was to be a scene in a film. There were cameramen down there, a whole film unit, and all the correct safety precautions had been taken. Probably the girl wasn't even a real girl, but a dummy. He opened the window and looked down. The car park, paved courts, grass spaces between the blocks, all were deserted. On the balcony rail, one of the dummy's hands moved, clutching its anchorage more tightly, more desperately. He had to believe then what was obviously happening. Unbelievable only because melodrama, though a frequent constituent of real life, always is. The girl was trying to kill herself. She had lost her nerve and now was trying to stay alive. All these thoughts and conclusions of his occupied about 30 seconds. Then he acted. He picked up the phone and dialed the emergency number for the police. The arrival of the police cars and the ultimate rescue of the girl became the focus of gossip and speculation for the tenants of the 2 blocks. Someone found out that it was he who had alerted the police, and he became an unwilling hero. He was a modest, quiet young man and, disliking this limelight, was relieved when the talk began to die away, when the novelty of it wore off, and he was able to enter and leave his flat without being pointed at as a kind of St. George, and sometimes even congratulated. About a fortnight after that morning of melodrama, he was getting ready to go to the theatre, just putting on his overcoat, when the doorbell rang. He didn't recognize the girl who stood outside. He had never seen her face. She said,
"I'm Lydia Simpson. You saved my life. I've come to thank you."
3.7 The Clinging Woman, Part 3.
She said,
"I'm Lydia Simpson. You saved my life. I've come to thank you."
His embarrassment was acute.
You shouldn't have.
He said with a nervous smile.
You really shouldn't. That's not necessary. I only did what anyone would have done.
She was calm and tranquil. Not at all his idea of a failed suicide.
"But no one else did,"
she said.
Won't you come in? Have a drink or something?
"Oh no, I couldn't think of it. I can see you're just going out. I only wanted to say thank you very, very much."
It was nothing.
"Nothing to save someone's life. I'll always be grateful to you."
He wished she would either come in or go away. If this went on much longer, the people in the other 2 flats on his floor would hear, would come out, and another of those bravest deeds of the year committee meetings would be convened.
Nothing at all,
he said desperately.
Really, I've almost forgotten it.
"I shall never forget. Never."
Her manner, calm, yet intense, made him feel uncomfortable, and he watched her retreat into the lift, smiling pensively with profound relief. Luckily, they weren't likely to meet again. The curious thing was that they did, the next morning, at the bus stop.
And there we leave the story for today. Tune in tomorrow at the same time to find out what happens next. In the meantime, good night to you all.
3.8 Asking about a book. 1.
Who wrote it?
Ruth Rendell. Her books are really thrilling. Have you read any of them?
2.
What kind of book is it?
It's a psychological thriller. I love thrillers and all crime fiction. What's your favourite kind of book?
3.
What's it about?
It's about a psychologically disturbed young girl and her relationship with a shy young man who saves her life. It's quite scary. I think you'd like it.
4.
Where and when is it set?
It's set in modern-day London. It's very up-to-date. I like books or films set in places I know.
5.
Who are the main characters?
A girl called Lydia and a young man. He's her neighbour, and it's strange because he's never named. I think this makes the story even more scary and fascinating.
6.
Has it been made into a film?
No, it hasn't, but other stories by the same author have been adapted both for film and TV. She had a whole series called Ruth Rendell Mysteries on ITV.
7.
How does it end?
It has quite a shocking end. This quiet, shy young man does something quite out of character. I'm not going to say what. Read it and find out.
8.
Would you recommend it?
Yes, I would, absolutely. It's a real page-turner. I couldn't put it down. You'd love it. It's a good holiday read.
9.
What were the reviews like?
Most said it was a great read. The Daily Telegraph critic said that Rendell's a better writer than Agatha Christie.
3.9. Kate Adie, CBE, BBC journalist. Kate Adie, CBE, is an English journalist. She worked for the BBC for 14 years as their chief news correspondent, and she currently presents From Our Own Correspondent on BBC Radio 4. In this programme, journalists and writers from all over the world take a closer look at the stories behind the headlines. Kate herself has travelled widely in her career. She became well known as one of the first British women journalists to face extreme danger in war zones around the world. Her most memorable reports include the Gulf Wars and Belfast during the Troubles. Her best-selling autobiography is called The Kindness of Strangers.
Welcome, Kate. What I'd really like to know is why you called your autobiography The Kindness of Strangers.
3.10. Interview with Kate Adie.
I think a lot of people think the world is an alien and rather frightening place. I could even say that perhaps the kind of reporting I've done has reinforced that, having been to quite a lot of the difficult, violent, and sometimes rather risky situations, which I'm afraid human life throws up. But I take the opposite view. Even in the worst of situations, people show extraordinary resources of concern, friendliness and kindness. In the middle of a riot, someone will help you. In a strange place where you don't even know a word of the language, a kind person will give you a helping hand. I'm an optimist, but I'm someone who believes that there's more good than bad in the world.
That's very refreshing to hear, especially these days with every single thing you ever hear is a down and about ghastliness and horrible people.
One of the biggest stories I did was a massacre where an army opened fire on unarmed people, students and ordinary citizens, without good reason, purely because the old regime disliked protest. Mm-hmm. And terrible things happened on the night in June. I was there as a reporter alongside a lot of others, but the night it happened, the midnight when the tanks came in, we went out, my crew and I, and we saw people shot round us. How we weren't shot is a matter of pure luck. And time and again, people grabbed hold of our arm, waved to us, beckoned, hid us behind a wall, shouted warnings, which we didn't understand but knew the secret police were after us, or there was a tank coming. And these people shielded us, helped us, and on 2 occasions actually beat off the police from attacking us and taking our cameras. I owe my lives to these unknown people. I mean, that is the extreme of kindness. So you get this kind of behaviour, and it's happened to me in all the worst of places.
So give us another example of some kindness of strangers during your career.
I was in the Gulf War. I was with 48,000 men of 7th Armoured Brigade and the British Army in the middle of a desert, and I was the only woman. And they were great towards me, tolerating the only woman who was in the frontline troops. And there was a lot of pressure and a lot of extraordinarily vicious, misogynistic press at home about what's that woman doing there. So I felt quite a lot of responsibility. I found myself in a tent one day and they were throwing gas at us. And I was very bothered. And an older officer came up to me and he just said very quietly, "Don't worry, we'll get you through it. You're not going to fail. We're going to make sure you can do it." It was wonderful. It was just what I needed. I thought, I'm not on my own. I'm not. And it was wonderful. And it's that sort of little remark that got me through.
Fantastic.
And another moment I remember. At 3 one morning, I was in Belfast during a major riot during the Troubles. And there was everything coming down the road. Sticks, rocks, bricks, rubber bullets. And everybody was very bad-tempered. And I stepped backwards and I fell in a hedge in the dark. And never fall in a privet hedge in the dark because you can't get out. I completely panicked and I entwined with the privet hedge and was stuck there. And I heard a window above me, above the sound of everything that was going on, squeak open. And there was a habit sometimes of attacking people by pouring boiling water on them. That happened sometimes in the midst of trouble. And I thought, what next? I was frozen. And a voice from the window said, "You stand there. You want a cup of tea?"
Have you encountered the kindness of strangers outside your professional life?
If a correspondent is resident in a particular country for a long time, they become much more conscious of what everyday life is like, and that people are just like them, have trouble paying their bills, complain about the bus service, and cannot get through the bureaucracy of their government. We all go through so many of the same things, and underneath the weirdness, the difference, the language, the climate, all of this, there's a very common thread, and often it's kindness.
That's so lovely to hear. And tell me, since writing that book, is your optimism still there? Do you still feel that you are surrounded by the kindness of strangers, or do you have a pessimism about the way that mankind is going in their relationships with each other?
I'm afraid I have a hard-headed historical view of that, and that is that war and conflict have been part of humankind and nature. There are major wars and territorial battles happen with almost every creature that's on this earth. So you have to be an optimist that we can find a way through it. I'm not a pessimist about it. I'm still very hopeful. I'm aware that smart philosophers will tell you today that the idea of us all getting more tolerant is probably not entirely natural, that we go 2 steps forward and 1 step back. If you look back 2,000 years and more, you hope that we have the brains and education and technology now to keep it getting better for the large number of people. But you've got to have your fingers crossed and you've got to work at it.
Well, on that optimistic and kind note, Kate Adie, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
3.11. Showing interest and surprise.
Jade's got a new boyfriend.
Has she? Good for her.
Apparently, he lives in a castle.
A castle? How amazing!
Yes, she met him in Slovenia.
Did she? That's interesting.
Unfortunately, he can't speak much English.
Can't he? Well, as long as he can say, "I love you."
3.12. Echo and reply questions. 1.
Sam wants to apologise.
Does he? Why?
Well, he's broken your mother's Chinese vase.
My mother's Chinese vase? Oh, no.
2.
We had a terrible holiday.
Did you?
Yes, it rained all the time.
Did it? How awful.
Yes, and the food was disgusting.
Was it? What a disaster.
3.
I'm broke.
Are you? How come?
Well, I had a £500 vet's bill for my dog.
£500? Poor Ziggy. What happened?
He was attacked by another dog in the park.
Another dog? Where was the owner?
4.
It took me 3 hours to get here.
3 hours? But it's only 10 miles.
Yes, but there was a huge traffic jam on the motorway.
Was there? That's awful.
We didn't move at all for 2 hours.
Didn't you? I bet you were really fed up.
5.
I'm on a mountain, watching the sunset.
Oh, are you? How lovely.
It is. And I've got something to ask you.
Have you? Is it important?
Yes. You see, I'd like to marry you.
Marry me? Wow. How romantic.